Alright, so the last video we talked about adding and subtracting rational numbers. So this we're going to talk about multiplying and dividing rational numbers. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is multiplying and dividing decimals. So when we were adding and subtracting them, we had to make sure the decimal point lined up. Now that's not necessary when you're multiplying. When you're multiplying, you actually want the last numbers to line up. Okay, and then we're going to stack them so that we can do multiplication. Now I see this 5.6 times negative 2.4, so my answer I know is going to be negative, because we have one positive and one negative. Now, this might be a while since you've done long multiplication, but let's just review that quickly. So we're going to take 4 times 6 is 24. So the 4 goes down and you carry the 2. Then we have to 4 times 5 is 20, plus 2 is 22. So now that we're moving over to the tens place and the 2, we need to put a 0 here to hold the ones place. So we do 2 times 6 is 12, carry the 1, so that will replace where that 2 was at. And we do 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. And then we add these together, we have 4, 4, 3, and 1. Now the question is, where do I put my decimal? So if I look here, I have one number after the decimal in the first number and one number after the decimal in the second number. So I have a total of 2 numbers after the decimal point. So I need to put my decimal point right in front of the 4s so that there's 2 numbers after the decimal point. Now remember, we did say our answer is going to be negative, so my answer is negative 13.44. So that's for multiplying. Now dividing, if we're dividing decimals by hand, which we're going to do in this section, we can't have a decimal point in the number we're dividing by. So I'm actually going to need to move this over so that it's a 105. But if I move it over in that number, I also have to move it over in this other number so that it's negative 239.4. And so I see I have 2 negatives dividing, so I know I'm going to actually get a positive answer, so I'm not going to worry about those when I'm doing my long division. So the number inside is actually 239.4, and outside is 105, okay, because we moved our decimal over. So again, that outside number can't have a decimal. Now we're just going to do long division. So how many times does 105 go into 239? Well, that would be twice. Now I started at 239 because I know 105 doesn't go into 2, and I know 105 doesn't go into 23. So I started out with the 239. And if I do that twice, then I get 210. Remember long division, now we subtract. 9 minus 0 is 9. 3 minus 1 is 2. And 2 minus 2 is 0. Bring down my 4. Okay, and the decimal point needs to go up on top. Now, how many times does 105 go into 294? Well, that's also twice, because I get 210. And if I subtract these, I get 4 and 8. So I have 84. Now, if I would have got, say, 106 left, then I know I didn't take the big number out, and that would have been a 3 instead. And now, 105 doesn't go into 84, but I don't want a remainder. I want to know exactly. So I'm going to add a 0 and drop that down. So how many times does 105 go into 840? Well, 100 goes into 800 8 times. And 8 times 5 is actually 40, so that works perfect. 8 times 105 will give me 840. This is good because I wanted the exact answer. Now, if you kept dividing and this wasn't coming out exact, you could stop after 3 or 4 decimal places. So that's it for multiplying and dividing decimals. So actually, when we were adding and subtracting, decimals were the easier of the two out of decimals and fractions, but when we're multiplying and dividing, fractions are actually easier. So for multiplying and dividing fraction, if it's a mixed number, make it an improper fraction, and then we can just multiply straight across from multiplying. So here I have negative 3/5 times 1.5. Well, 1.5 is a mixed number, and I don't want that. I want an improper fraction. So remember, to make it an improper fraction, we multiply. 2 times 1 is 2, and then we add the numerator to that. So 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. And then my denominator stays the same, it's still 2. So now I have an improper fraction, and once I have that, I can just multiply straight across. So I have a negative 3/5 times a positive 3/2, so negative times a positive is a negative. And then 3 times 3 is 9, and 5 times 2 is 10. So negative 9/10. Sometimes you will see that you can actually reduce some of these numbers. So I'm going to do it without it first, and then I'll show you what I mean. So 1 times 2 in this one, they're both proper fractions. So 1 times 2 is 2, and 4 times 9 is 36. Now that reduces to 118. Okay. Now if you would have saw that at the beginning, that the 2 and the 4 both have a common factor, so this is kind of called cross-reducing. Of 2, I divided by 2, I get a 1 here, and divide 4 by 2, and I get a 2. And I multiply straight across there, I get 1 times 1 is 1, and 2 times 9 is 18. So either way I get the same answer. I either reduce in the beginning or reduce at the end. Now dividing is very, very similar. To divide, you're actually multiplying by the reciprocal. So remember, reciprocal means you're flipping your fraction over. So if you had like 2/3, you're going to flip that over to 3/2. Okay, but we only do that to the second fraction. And then it's multiplying. So to divide, we multiply by the reciprocal. So this problem here, 1/3 divided by 1/2, is actually 1/3 times 2/1, the reciprocal of 1/2. And then it's just like multiplying. I can multiply straight across and get 2/3. Again, if there's an improper fraction, if there's a mixed number, we want to make that an improper fraction before we do anything else. So 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5, so I have 5/2. So we need to do that so we actually know what the reciprocal is. We can't do the reciprocal of a mixed number. So we got negative 3/4 times the reciprocal of 5/2 is 2/5. And then I can multiply straight across. Negative 3 times 2 is negative 6. And 4 times 5 is 20. Again, if you would have noticed the 2 and the 4, you could have canceled at the beginning. Otherwise, it's fine. We can just divide by 2 now and reduce this to negative 3/10. And that's all there is to multiplying and dividing fractions.